Hi everyone, welcome to the sixth episode of Women of Startup Nation. We're very excited to have a very special guest today. Speaking about the news in Israel, we've been having some sort of calmer time and not, but this is expected. The war is slowing down, more and more hostages have been returned home, the remains, including the one of Adar Goldin, who's been missing for 11 years. So it was a very deep moment and a moment of closure for his family and also for the whole country. We hope to be able to enjoy more quiet in the future and more countries join the Abraham Accords, which is exciting, and we really hope that
Kazakhstan is already on its way.
Yeah, which was already kind of weird because they already have an embassy here, but
Yes,
it's still the more the merrier. So we really hope we're gonna be able to share more and more good news with you. But today it's all about this is a disclosure. One of my closest friend, Juyon Kim. She has an incredible story, and her journey to Israel is very unique. And we are very excited to have her. Fiametta, would you like to say a little bit more?
Yes, we started this project, the Women of Startup Nation, to show the variety of Israeli women and their journey. And you have a very peculiar journey. You arrived here from Korea and you also spent time in New York. So can you tell us a little bit more what brought you to Israel and why you're still here despite all the crazy time that we're going through?
Wow, this is a long story, but I'm going to try to make it short. I came here originally in 2006 with my then husband, and I came here without really understanding what is Israel and what's the really history, where is it even in the map. And came here just because I wanted to convert to Judaism, actually, because my ex-husband is Jewish American, and we were married for a while before I decided that I wanted to become Jewish. But I understood that there's a lot that I would like to learn more about to be, in a way, a better partner. So, and then I found a very good program here in Jerusalem with wonderful rabbis who are American, so they speak English, and this is how I came first. And I was in the course, and one thing led to another. After conversion, we just ended up just staying here, and then we moved to Haifa. And for me, after living in Korea, New York, and Hong Kong, living in Haifa was, I didn't know where I was, I didn't find myself really. And so that resulted in us leaving Israel for a few years. And then, and I decided that maybe I want to raise my children in Israel, actually. So this made us come back to Israel, but this time to Tel Aviv, which I'm very excited about. I love living in Tel Aviv.
So I just want to ask you, because we've been talking about it a lot privately. I'm happy to share it now. But something that came out in our conversation was very surprising, is that you always said that Korean values are very close to Israeli/Jewish values. And it comes as a surprise to me because, it's two very different culture with different history and etc. Would you like to tell us more about that?
Sure. The value system, even within a country, can be very varied. But within the big scope, I think there are a lot of similarities. First of all, Korean value system, which emphasizes education. Really, Korea had historically one of the lowest illiteracy in the world, and Koreans are so interested in educating their children. And I know Korea is an economically strong country right now, but we had the Korean War, and then we went through poverty. It was one of the poorest countries in the world.
Really?
And yes, even then, Koreans were so interested in sending their children to university, making sure that you study. So this is a value system that I think really resonates with the Jewish value system of emphasizing also education. and hard work. Hard work is also one big factor, one big value system that Korea has that I find very similar to the Jewish value system.
And the family.
Of course, the family is very important. Yeah, so the closeness, tight knit. It's sometimes it has plus and minus, right?
Yeah.
But basically, I find the Jewish value system not difficult for me.
Yeah.
And tell me if I'm wrong, when you were speaking about that, somehow you made me think also about the value of resilience, which I think is very Israeli, but also very Korean, because also all the work that you went through with North Korea. And now that we are back in war, I would like to ask you if it's true, if you feel also this resilience value, and also how difficult it is for you being here in the middle of a war when you were doing your journey most likely because you wanted to live in peace and guarantee to your kids not only a good education, but also a country where they could live in peace. So how can you handle all of it? Because there is a lot of struggle.
Yes, I mean, in terms of wanting peace, I think, I'm no different from anybody else, but my generation, when I was growing up, we had sirens. We never had an actual threat of the war happening. But my parents' generation did. My mother is a little bit younger than my father, so she didn't experience it. But my father had to flee Seoul, where he comes from, and then he had to move down to the south with the whole family. And there are many such families. And that's the generation that's really affected by the war, really. And my generation, I experienced the sirens, but I wasn't really afraid of the actual war happening. Maybe that's why whenever there was a siren, I wasn't that scared, because in Korea it didn't really happen. But I think what was very specific for me when I started experiencing the war living in Israel is that it always happened because I would be like in the middle of something completely mundane, like with my children in the playground, or I'd be working in my clinic, and then there's a siren, and our neighbors are attacking us, and it was always initiated by the neighbors. And when I was new here, I was like, of course you have to fight back. And then I was surprised by the international criticism when Israel fights back.
Yeah.
So so you fight back, but then you're fighting back too hard. What is it? How do you determine this? If this happened to Korea, if North Korea came to South Korea and invaded, I think Korea would be just annihilated. That's what I would think that would happen in any normal country. And that was weird to me. So that instead of making me feel scared, I felt more like, I feel like justice has to be done. Of course, it's much more complicated than that. As I lived here for a long, long time now, I realized that there's so much more to consider. There are layers of politics and history and what happened during the World War II, and then with the British Mandate. All this, no one thinks about it, but actually it goes into play of what's going on here. I didn't think about this so much when I experienced the war here. But yeah.
So let me ask you something, because we all had our journeys, and all the women that we have interviewed have had really interesting journeys in terms of their career, actually. So we wanted to ask you, how has moving to Israel in a way set the path for your career? And I'll just tell our listeners who Juyon is. She's one of the most amazing acupuncturists in Tel Aviv,
in Israel.
In Israel. And she focuses on specific areas that she will tell us more about it, especially women's health. But it's interesting for me to see how living in Israel and how seeing all these people around us setting up businesses and startups, and the women especially getting up and setting up their own businesses and doing things and trying new things and learning new things. How has this influenced your career and led you to the very successful business you're running today?
Well, this is a very loaded question.
You can pick your answers.
So first of all, when I first came to Israel, I think there was a woman who inspired me very much. Was my ex-mother-in-law, who is a woman now in her 90s, but she's still going strong. And she was a career woman. She did so many things. And when I met her, she was already retired. But I saw on her fridge door all her schedule of volunteer jobs, like a few times a day, sometimes, and lectures, and this was something very refreshing. I didn't realize until then some people actually, even when they retired, live like this.
Yeah.
And she was a woman who was born in America in those days when women also, even in America, didn't work so much. And she said that she found herself oftentimes the only woman in the whole room when she was working in her consultancy company, and she said that she was also sometimes the only Jewish person. So she was only Jewish and only woman. And in those days when she was pregnant, she would have to hide her pregnancy, and she found it very surprising that when I was pregnant that I showed it so overtly, right? Yeah. So somebody like her really inspired me, and I see many such women in Israel. And I honestly think, even with all the inequalities that still happen in this society, I think Israel is a feminist society. Yeah. I think women have rights, women have opportunities, and I find that to be really wonderful. And it's also a tough country to live in, right? With all the wars, not only just that, because it's such a new country, the system's not organized, and there is, as of course balagan, which means
we're like Italian. We're used to the balagan.
Yes, the mess. So
balagan means mess in Hebrew, and everybody knows Israel is a messy country.
So I especially I arrived to Israel after having lived in Hong Kong, and everything is so organized. The system, it's a British system, and with a Asian hardworking mentality, and things were working very well in Hong Kong in those days. And I arrived there, and everything is such a balagan, and it was tough for me. It was frustrating at times when you want to get started. Things are, nothing is clear, and then you have to knock so many doors to understand what's exactly going on. So when I started my clinic in the beginning, it was tough, but at the same time, many people wanted to help me. Yeah. I think it's a country where people want to help you. If you need help, so for me, coming from Asia, people are softer in general. Okay, so I am trying not to generalize here, but there is more rules in social interactions. But here, everything is just straight, and you can express anger or things that are ordinarily uncomfortable in Asian culture. You just say it. And then it was strange for me in the beginning to witness people just like screaming to each other, and then all of a sudden they hug and go away, and they're still friends, right? So that was hard for me. But actually, even when people are as rude and as rough as this, everybody wants to help you. When it brings me to my tears when I see, every time I'm on a bus or something, and somebody falls on the floor, like an old lady or old man, and everybody wants to help them. And I find this to be really amazing. And like this, people wanted to help me in the beginning when I started working, as if they take me in like your a family member or something like this. And this is something that I really appreciated being in Israel. So it was tough, but also in a way very inspiring.
Till October 7 arrived. So you were running your business successfully. You have 2 clinics, waiting list of women that are waiting for your help. And then how your life changed, working-wise, family-wise, spiritually-wise, like how this date shift your also believe, if I can ask you.
So many things changed, actually. On October 7th was something that I never experienced in Israel. Of the whole, let's say, how long have I been here altogether? Maybe 20 years. Yeah, and where can I begin? It changed everything. First of all, it was extremely scary, but it got me thinking about what's really important. I am working in a field where I take care of people's health, mind and body. And of course, it was such a traumatizing event. I didn't have work really in October, and only towards the end of November, work started picking up again. People started to want to come back. Yeah, everybody was hiding. I mean, of course, I had people like I had still people who really wanted to come, and being together was helpful. For me, it was helpful also to help people.
Yeah.
I realized in this time that, I took pride up until then in the fact that I help people, but I realized those people are helping me too. It was really such a clear experience for me to understand that when I had patients coming in, I feel good. And that was one thing that I understood. But another thing is, when you're under threat, when you have missiles falling down, when you have kidnapped people, what like, do you want to lie down with needles in the clinic?
Yeah.
And it got me thinking. I think that the whole country is obviously suffering from nervous system dysregulation, and it affects people.
It's a very nice word for
to describe it,
post-trauma
yes.
or...
Of course, I'm talking technically.
As a professional.
And trauma is, yes. And then I think it's I also started thinking acupuncture is not enough. I started actually learning to teach people how to breathe. I have been meditating since I was very young, like in my teenage years, because I grew up Buddhist. And I decided that this is a tool that I can help my patients with. So I'm learning at this moment to be a teacher who facilitates breathing for people who were in trauma. I think trauma really affects people's health. Obviously, it's a known thing in many different ways. It comes out in people, sometimes in their digestive system, sometimes in migraines, sometimes just like impossible to swallow things. It's, or you have pain, you have other more serious problems like cancer or autoimmune diseases. So it opened my eyes in terms of a practitioner, this whole thing. But overall, I think what this war taught me was what is important. Just really going back to basic. You want to love.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally relate to that.
Yeah.
I think for the lucky ones of us that weren't directly affected with,
Sure.
God forbid, losing a family member or having them kidnapped or losing a home, many of us had the opportunity to sort of rethink fully their lives and start really understanding. Maybe some of us practiced gratitude before, but today it has such a much deeper meaning. Like
Absolutely.
every night I'm home and my 3 kids are sleeping in their beds, it just gives me such a comfort and such a deep sense of gratitude. Just I don't even need to make an effort. It's just like a thankfulness that I couldn't even get to that even by trying to meditate, because really life is not to be taken for granted.
No.
And but I wanted to ask you, because you've obviously now more Jewish and more Israeli than so many of us, but you decided to join a very
Peculiar place in the world.
peculiar place and peculiar people, and you can picture yourself having taken a completely different path, I guess. So, and people ask me the same, because I'm Italian, even though I'm Jewish by birth. I could have chosen to be somewhere else. And
And also to leave after October
And to
7.
leave.
We could all
So-
leave, and we're still here.
I guess my question is, have you ever regretted moving to Israel or join our people? We would never let you go, but you know.
Regret, because I'm sure I'm in this life, in this journey, in this place for a reason. That's the way I take my life anyway, and I feel like my life in Israel didn't expire. It's the only thing. I'm very practical, but at the same time, my practicality comes from my senses. So I feel like Israel's still the place. And also I have children here, they're teenagers. It's very difficult to uproot them and then take them to a different country. But it's not the only reason. I think I'm here. This is my place right now. It doesn't mean that maybe I won't leave at some point, but right now it didn't change me. I don't regret it. I think my choice has been the right one. I grew here as a person. And as difficult as it was, it made me realize how much strength I have inside.
Yeah.
So this is it.
Just one follow-up question. Israel is being depicted as an apartheid, colonialist, but mainly racist country. You being Asian, I want to ask you, have you ever experienced racism? Do you think Israel is a racist country?
Well, I think everybody's a racist. I think, in Korea they're racists, and they're also in Europe they're racist, and in America they're racist. In Israel, yes, there are racists. I think that it's absolutely not an apartheid country. I think it's really looking at the whole thing from a wrong angle.
Yeah.
What South Africa experienced is completely different from what Israel is doing. This is a very, we can talk about this for hours, which I think you should actually at some point.
Yeah.
But I know sometimes Koreans like to think that what's happening in Israel, occupation of Palestine by Israel, is the same as Japan occupying Korea during the war, during also Japanese occupation. There's a history of this. Some people don't know about it. It's not talked about very much. It's completely different, in my opinion.
Yeah.
First of all, Israel hasn't occupied Gaza since when? It was
20 years exactly.
20 years.
Yes.
20 years. And then I don't know why people still think that it's not real. Having said that, I would also when all this was happening since October 7th, I have been thinking so much about those people of Gaza as well.
Yeah.
It's not that I've been thinking, okay, my positioning is that we are the only victims and they're not. It's not true. I'm sure, just like I ended up in Israel by chance, those people are born there by chance, and they have their own private lives, and I feel for them. I feel that we are in a kind of impossible situation with a political challenges really that are almost impossible in my view to solve.
Yeah.
And even though they're not in the apartheid situation, they're really in a devastating situation.
Yeah. What people miss is that sometimes it's just very convenient to think about the conflict as like a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
If they're suffering, that means that we're okay, or if we are suffering, then they're winning. That's what I always hated about the way the conflict has been depicted in the news, especially in Israel, that it's like a soccer game. You're either pro-Israel or pro-Palestinians, and honestly, the people just following the conflict on Instagram, I have zero respect for them for having such a strong opinion about what's going on here without even having read one article, just based on some nonsense sponsored very often by terrorist organizations, and then not only because it's stupid and I don't do it myself on other conflicts, but also because the consequences of spreading hatred and lies and bullshit about a conflict that they don't understand leads to violence.
Yeah.
Like all the attacks against Israeli or Jewish targets abroad are the direct results of all this nonsense that people just like keep posting on Instagram.
Yeah.
Also because they are only zooming in without zooming out and understanding the complexity of Middle East first and what I call third world war, which is maybe the next episode.
Yeah.
Yes, that's why I appreciate it when my friends who live abroad, who are not Jewish, who know that I live here and I've been living here, ask me questions. How is it going and what's going on and what's your view? And I really appreciate that instead of just them making judgments on their own.
I'm very jealous you have such friends because we have very few that ask you questions.
Italy also is going through a very huge wave of return of anti-Semitism, but since we're getting close to the end of the episode, we would
Let's be optimistic.
Actually being optimistic, also because we had such a great opportunity to have somebody like you here. So we would like to ask you, before we finish, if there is any other inspiring Israeli woman that, beside your ex-mother-in-law, that inspires you so much and that can leave us a sort of optimistic message, not only to close this episode, but also to looking forward for the Abraham Accord, eventually a better place where to live, not only here in Israel, but in Middle East and worldwide in general.
I think every woman who lives in Israel is amazing. I think anybody who struggles through what we have been struggling and still find peace in their mind, in their heart, to be able to smile and carry on and go to work and raise children. I think, these are the women that I admire.
It's very inspiring. Also the sisterhood between women, but also basically not letting yourself go and pushing forward. The resilience, really.
I think it's okay to
fall apart.
Mind a little bit here.
Yeah, but then
it's normal.
But then you have your friends and sisters to lift you up. We try at least not to leave anybody behind.
Yeah, it's not taken for granted, but I really feel in the last 2 years, all my girlfriends literally saved my life. So actually, I would like to take the opportunity to say thank you to all my amazing Israeli friends, especially women's girlfriends. And thank you, Juyon.
Thank you, Juyon. This was great.
Super inspiring.
We're going to put the website of Juyon's clinic for those of you who are lucky enough to be in Israel.
Otherwise, move to Israel just to be treated by Juyon Kim.
Yeah, we're both a fan of Juyon's treatment. So,
and this is our beautiful clinic.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you soon.
Ciao, Juyon.
Thank you, Juyon.
Bye.